today we're talking about a new palette from Tarte. This is from their Double Duty Beauty line and it's called Confessions of a Man-Eater. I was pretty excited when I saw this palette pop up on Ulta's website. If you've been around on my channel for a very long time, then you will remember this, the original Tarte Man-Eater palette. This was the first Man-Eater. There was a re-release, sort of reimagination of this palette, and now this is sort of the third iteration in the Man-Eater saga. I went crazy for this original Man-Eater palette when it first came out. I loved the shadows. They were super soft, really easy to work with. I actually liked the inclusion of this highlighter because it could also act as an eyeshadow. All around, I really, really loved this palette. I never picked up the second one because it was basically the same palette, but instead of this highlighting shade, there was just 9 eyeshadow pans, so there was a shimmery white champagne shade like this, and then there was a matte black. I didn't feel the need to repurchase this whole palette for basically a matte black shadow that I rarely use anyway. So I don't really have too much to say about the second one, but when I saw this latest Confessions of a Man-Eater palette pop up, I was intrigued. I was reminded of how much I loved that original Man-Eater palette. Since I'm always cycling through, reviewing, testing new things, finding new favorites, this was just something I hadn't reached for in a while. And this reminded me of how much I loved that palette. So I decided to try it out and see if I could recapture that magic. I did purchase this myself from Ulta. It was $30 US. It is quite a bit taller and a little bit slimmer than the original Man-Eater palette. Let's take a close-up look at the packaging. This has a coated heavy-duty cardboard. This does have a magnetic closure. And then when we open up inside, there is a very decent sized mirror in here. It has a feature that I love, which is the mirror can fold all the way back. This is something I find very useful just in my life when I'm using a palette. Then we have eyeshadow shades, a blush, and a highlighter slash blush topper. There are 3 matte shades, 3 shimmer shades. I do love an even split. This has the same sweet fragrance, almost like a chocolatey vanilla scent to the powders. The original Man-Eater palette had the same sort of vanilla cocoa scent to it. I always like to mention when products are scented because I know a lot of people are sensitive to fragrance and makeup, or they simply just don't like it. I will say this isn't super strong. It's not a wave of sweet scent hitting you in the face. Like, for example, a Too Faced chocolate bar. When you open that palette, it smells like you're in a chocolate shop. This is a little bit more subtle, but it's definitely still present. So I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that. Before I get into my thoughts and my review on this palette, I just want to show you some swatches. I'll show you both finger and brush swatches of this Confessions of a Man-Eater palette. And then I'm also going to show you comparison swatches to my original Man-Eater palette. We'll start with the swatches of this palette. I will show you both finger and brush swatches. The swatches will be done on the inside of my arm with no primer down first. The finger swatches will be on top and each corresponding brush swatch will be directly below. As always, I'll be using my e.l.f. flat eyeshadow brush to do the brush swatches, and I'll clean that brush off in between each shade using my Veramona color switch. That way there's no shadow transfer between swatches. So let's take a look at all the swatches now. Just a reminder that the finger swatches are on top and the brush swatches are below, especially because I think these brush swatches look nicer, smoother, more opaque, and more pigmented than the finger swatch. Look at the shade Wild. It's undeniable. These apply way better with a brush. Now let's look at a little comparison between the original Man-Eater palette and this new Confessions of a Man-Eater. I think this is a really relevant comparison. When you take a look here side by side, not many of the shades look exactly the same. Mainly just that dark brown matte shade is the closest dupe. Now, these are definitely very, very similar. There's absolutely no denying that fact. Now that you've seen the swatches and the comparisons, I want to show you a quick tutorial of me using the Confessions of a Man-Eater palette on my cheeks and eyes for this look that I'm wearing today, and then I'll wrap up all my thoughts at the end. I'm going to start with the cheek products first. So I'm first going in with this matte pink blush shade called Smitten Kitten. This did take a couple of layers to really show up in any capacity. Next up is the highlighter. This one's called Catitude. This is a soft pink with a gold shift, and it showed up pretty darn well for me, especially compared to the blush. Now I'm priming my eyes with my MAC paint pot in the shade Painterly. It's my favorite eye base. I use it for every look, and I'm going straight in with this shade Kitten Me. This is a soft, very pale brown in the pan, but you can see it shows up quite a bit deeper once it's actually applied to the crease area, and it does show up pretty well on the lower lash line for me as well. So just getting those transition shades set up. Next, I'm going to add a little bit more warmth, a little bit more depth with a fluffier brush, applying the shade called Positive and focusing that in the outer crease area. Next, I'm using Ferocious. This is that metallic red shade. I'm just applying that to the outer part of my eye using my fingertip in sort of patting motions so that I get a nice opaque coverage on the outer half of the eye. And for the rest of my lid, I'm using this shade called Meow Mint. I know the cat puns are a little bit on overload, but hey, I think that's just some people's humor and I'm okay with it. Speaking of cat puns, this shade called Purdy is going in the inner corner. I just applied that really gently with my pinky finger, and then I decided to go with the shade Wild as a sort of faux liner with a pencil brush, and this means that I used every single shade in this palette. So that is a 6 shadow look, and lastly, I'm curling my lashes, of course, and adding my Wonder Beauty Unlashed mascara. This is my finished look. I do think that I could get probably 2 or 3 other eye looks out of this palette, which is pretty good for a 6 shadow palette. And I definitely would consider using the blush and highlighter, the face powders, on my eyes as well for a softer type of eye look. Overall, I'm really happy with how this turned out. I would definitely wear this eye look or something like it again in the future. When I first saw it online, I thought, wow, this looks pretty intriguing. I'm interested, you know, Tarte's kind of caught my attention, been back on my radar again lately. Then when I opened this palette up, I don't want to say disappointed, but I was a little surprised because it looks so much more muted in person than it does in the pictures. I was expecting a little bit more vibrancy from the cheek products and this reddish shimmery shade called Ferocious. I was feeling a little bit underwhelmed when I first opened it, and then even more underwhelmed when I started swatching it, because these powders don't feel as creamy to the touch as my original Man-Eater palette. So when I first dug into these pans, I was really not expecting too much as far as blendability and color payoff. I have to say, at the end of it all, I am pleasantly surprised with this formula. This is kind of a sleeper formula. It performs a lot better with a brush on the skin than it does just sort of those curiosity swatches that we do. I know you know what I mean. Particularly with the cheek products, in swatch, I thought these were so underwhelming. I was pleasantly surprised by how good they actually looked on my skin. The highlighter shade performs a lot better for me than the blush shade. I feel like the blush is the biggest misstep in this whole palette. It is a really soft, warm, baby pink type of shade, which I love for myself, but I just don't see this being a very universal shade. I don't think it would necessarily be a favorite or a high performer for anybody with a skin tone that's deeper than mine, and I am on the pale end of the light part of the skin tone spectrum. So I do think that this blush was a misstep. The formula on the highlighter is a little bit more impressive. I didn't have to do as much building up to get color payoff. I think the shade is interesting. It's a warm pink with a gold shift. This is gonna look good on a lot of skin tones. as a blush topper. For more pale, light skin, it could definitely be a highlighter or a blush topper for medium and deeper skin tones. So I don't have a problem with cheek products. I just have a problem with cheek products when they automatically exclude a huge portion of customers. I would have loved actually to see 2 shimmer shades up here. Maybe a darker pink sort of with this type of tone perhaps, but something along this line still with that gold shift, and then we would have, for me, what would be a blush and a highlighter or blush toppers or highlighters. I think that would have been a lot more universally useful across the board. The shadows are pretty. I like these type of tones. I know not everybody is here for more nudes, but I do think this sort of makes sense in the Man-eater family. This is more of a pink take, a pinky based take on the warmer neutrals that were in the original Man-eater palette. Overall, not shockingly different. I don't think they're definitely exact dupes, but if you have one, you're not really going to be missing out on much if you don't have the other one. Even if they had chosen to do a deep purple matte here instead of another deep brown matte, I think that really would have upped the ante on this entire color scheme and really helped set these shadows apart from the original Man-eater release. It's like they almost wanted to take it to a different place by putting a little bit more of a pink undertone, but they just couldn't quite get away from these standard old neutral matte shades. It's not perfect. I don't think it's a perfect follow-up in the Man-eater series. With a dark purple matte and a more universal cheek color, I think we could have been leaps and bounds above. But I will say, I don't hate it. I am not disappointed in it like I thought I was going to be originally when I started swatching it. It did perform well for me. It applied and blended really, really easily. I love the way that my eyes turned out. I love the highlighter. I will say when this video is over, I'm going to go and apply a little bit more intense blush because this blush isn't really doing it for me. It's better than I expected, but it's just not quite there for me. Close, just not quite there. I'm still gonna use it. I'm not like lining it up for the 2020 favorites or anything. Now's the time when I want to hear what you think about this palette. Is this something you're interested in? Have you tried the other Man-eater palettes? I always love to hear what you guys think about things too, so make sure you leave all your thoughts in the comments down below. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye! Okay, hold on now. It's called Confessions of a Man-eater. That sounds like the title of some sort of chick lit series, doesn't it? I mean, I would probably read it and love it, so I'm not here to shade. Oh, these allergies. Okay, I'm fine. If you've been around on my channel... Oh, my voice sounded like this. What am I trying to say? I'll get there eventually. I feel like I've been on a bit of an emotional roller coaster with this palette. Exaggerate much? Okay. We really have a whole burgundy vibe happening right now, and I like it. What am I don't even know where I'm going with this at this point. Universally, what a lady. Cute. Adorable. Excuse me. Excuse me. Okay, I'm good. I'm fine. I barely even see any blush there. Where'd it go? Where is it? I mean, I like some subtle makeup, but took it too far this time. On that note, I'm gonna go. Be smart, be safe, take care of the people around you. Just wear your mask if you're gonna go to Costco. Just put it on, wash your hands, look out for your fellow human beings. Know that I will do that for you because I love your face so very much. So please cover it with a mask. Thank you for watching. I love you. I love your face. Love you so much. Okay, I'm gonna go. Bye. Bye.